Hello and welcome everyone to our latest Orbus Live. I'm Tim Mitchell, Chief Evangelist here at Orbus Software. Before I introduce my guest today, a reminder about this series. So these are basically an invitation to explore some of the key challenges that companies are facing today and try and understand the role that enterprise architecture teams can have in addressing those. We tend to bring in guests from different perspectives to share their views. And so hopefully, as an audience, you can take away some of the practical insights, best practices to use within your own organizations. So today's topic is building the future faster with iServer365 and Lucidchart. And the context here is that Orbus and Lucid have recently formed an exciting technology partnership to essentially better equip our end users to document, collaborate, and enable transformation decision-making within their organizations. And we'll touch obviously more on that in the discussion as we go forward. But first of that, I'm pleased to be joined today by a man who makes me yearn for the long hair of my youth, Tanner Johnston at Lucid. Hi, Tanner.
Hi, Tim. How you doing?
Yeah, great. Thank you. Good to have you with us today. Why don't we start with a brief introduction to yourself, a bit of background for the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for having me on. I'm really excited to be here. By way of introduction, my name is Tanner Johnston. I'm a manager on Lucid's business development and strategy team. I've been here for 2 years, and throughout the last couple of years, I've been working on a variety of things from our product strategy, product integrations, our third-party developer platform and portal, all the way up through some corporate development work. Prior to Lucid, I worked for a smart home company on an incubation team building spin-out businesses. And before that, I also spent time at a couple of venture capital funds investing in tech, specifically software startups. So really excited to be here and talk about the integration between iServer365 and Lucidchart.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Tanner. And I know, it's early for you over there on the West Coast, so I appreciate you making the effort for us today.
Absolutely.
So for everyone, watching, a little bit more of housekeeping, we really urge you and welcome your participation in these sessions. You have access to a chat on the right. Please comment, ask questions, or simply give your opinion. We really hope that these sessions start other conversations for people. Okay, so Tanner, speaking to our customer organizations, they're all looking to enable change, to build better futures. The drivers for change tend to fall broadly into two categories: those who are adapting to thrive, those who are adapting to survive, some of them doing both. And it's no more evident in the world today. If you look out there, there are huge opportunities for tech-enabled growth with the advancement of technology as it is. But at the same time, we're facing unprecedented disruption across the world. The decade of disruption, from the pandemic to post-pandemic aftershocks, to the Ukraine conflict, to the energy crisis, climate change, and so on and so on. So I guess probably my first question, how are you seeing these kinds of macro factors affecting Lucidchart's customers?
Yeah, so it's been unique because Lucid has been around for over a decade. And so over those years, we've seen some incredible changes, but particularly, as you've mentioned, over the past, perhaps 2 to 3 years, there've been some monumental shifts. And one of the biggest changes that we've seen, we've kind of distilled down to like the way that we work, which is such a broad term. So I kind of want to break that down. The global workforce is increasingly distributed. There's a shift in the way that teams work and collaborate together. And I know that there's, going to be plentiful hot takes on, the future of remote and hybrid work. But I think there is some agreement that, it is going to stay and it's not going away anytime soon. The pace of change is accelerated as we adopt new technologies that allows us to move at a quicker speed. And we need to make decisions not only correctly, but more efficiently and quickly than before. And because of that, business is becoming much more complex. We've got more software, more data, more interconnections to understand and to manage than ever before. Teams are increasing in order to adapt to this. Teams are becoming more specialized, but in that specialization are becoming more siloed. And so with this huge change of the way we work, we're seeing three common challenges from our largest enterprise leaders. The first is that collaboration is hard. Old ways of working together and sharing ideas is really no longer realistic in a hybrid or remote environment. You can't get everybody into the same room for big room planning. You can virtually, but there's still, some technical limitations, and there's a very big difference between all gathered around a table and then all gathered around a Zoom screen. And it's very easy to stay quiet, and some ideas may go unsaid in those virtual rooms. The second is that business is just becoming more complex. With the increased number of tech and data, it's really hard for teams to have an understanding of where they fit within existing applications and processes. And then the third thing that we're really seeing is a lack of alignment. Because of that, many teams and all the cross-functional work involved in larger business initiatives and those specialized teams being siloed from each other, every team has a different area of expertise, technical understanding, and context. And they lack that shared understanding of the business and the dependencies of their work. And so I really like how you said, the two ideas, you either need to survive or need to thrive. Hopefully you can, do both at the end of the day, but it's something that every single organization is going to have to adapt to.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's really interesting. A couple of things that I picked up on what you were just saying. You talk about the complexity of businesses, the fact that we have distributed teams, siloed teams, there's the proliferation of technology and all the complexity that comes with that, the lack of alignment. And so when our customers come to us, it's because they need to make those strategic changes, whether it's thrive or survive or both. And that's enabled by technology, fundamentally. But their decision-making around those changes is hindered by the complexity of their businesses and ultimately a lack of clarity into where they are today. How are their businesses put together? How do they operate these big, complex organizations? Mm-hmm. So Orbus's purpose is helping those organizations to architect their digital future from that point, right? So how would you summarize Lucid's purpose or mission? What are the key reasons customers are coming to you?
Yeah, great question. So our mission is we've kept it as simple as possible, and that is we help teams see and build the future, and we accomplish this through our what we call our visual collaboration suite, which includes 3 individually powerful yet highly connected products that we've built on an industry-leading visual collaboration platform. So our first product is Lucid Spark, which is our virtual whiteboarding application. Our second is Lucidchart, our intelligent diagramming application, which this integration with iServer365 is built with. And then our third is Lucid Scale, which is our cloud visualization application. And these products span the entire life cycle of your work, starting from the ideas that you have in their infancy and then supporting those ideas all the way through execution and making those ideas become reality. All these products run on any device, browser, or operating system and can be virtually used by any knowledge worker. But as we're speaking with our larger enterprises and leaders, like they ultimately choose Lucid for a variety of reasons, but the 2 most common ones are, first, our collaboration capabilities. And you may think of a diagramming software as, it helps you correctly depict a systems diagram or the output of a brainstorm, and that's helpful. But what really matters is how that enables a team to work more effectively together. And so that not only happens in synchronous meetings, but it also happens asynchronously as well. And the second thing we do is how we support teams end to end. So there's a lot of point solutions for diagramming or for brainstorming. But Lucid's real special sauce is what we call our visual collaboration suite. And it's that visual collaboration is a phrase that we used on our first website over a decade ago. But helping you move through the entire journey from idea to reality. Mm-hmm. So we do this through our own product, but we also do this through deep, meaningful integrations and partnerships with folks like Orbus.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of overlaps in what you're saying with the kind of challenges that our customers are coming to us about, and how we work with them. So I guess to provide a bit of context for people, obviously iServer365, really provides two key values for organizations. The first of all is it provides that visibility into what an organization looks like today. Okay, so a central live digital representation of an organization, from its strategy and its goals, through its capabilities, its processes, down to its applications, technology, and data. So all of those entities, if you like, are represented. Now, this is typically populated and maintained by architecture teams, and they use three key inputs really to build that enterprise architecture model, right? They use data that's pulled directly from other tools or systems. They use data that is contributed by people across the organization, by stakeholders across the organization. And then thirdly, there are those visual diagrams which can be either created within the platform or are uploaded from other teams across the business. And obviously that's where Lucidchart is so complementary. So I guess, can you talk a bit more about what Lucidchart enables you to model, the types of teams and roles who are using it, and maybe also any sort of integrations that users can leverage to enrich the diagrams that you're creating?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. Like Lucidchart's visual workspace, our infinite canvas capabilities can help you really create and model just about anything. From diagramming a technical process to visualizing your migration to the cloud, designing new business architecture, even company personnel maps, or a sales account map. So we can do almost anything, but we essentially distill it down to kind of three things that we can visualize: people, processes, and systems. As far as like who uses Lucidchart, like I said, literally anybody can use it. And we have customers in basically any role that you can imagine using us. If you have a computer and you do some type of knowledge work, there's a use case for Lucidchart. That being said, our biggest advocates are teams who build and implement and manage software. And that can be for both internal use cases and external use cases. And one of the interesting things is, I think the delineation between, a tech company and a non-tech company is, non-existent anymore. Even historically, non-technical companies have vast amounts of software and tools internally that they need to manage and continue to optimize. But meaningful integrations have been a core part of Lucid's strategy since the beginning. So all the way from, on one end, our productivity integrations that essentially allow you, Lucid, to work wherever you work. So integrations with Atlassian, Google, Slack, and Microsoft. But also some of our most meaningful integrations are with data platforms and sources of truth like Orbus's, to help essentially become help people quickly design, visualize, build, and implement those important processes or systems. So we think of Lucidchart as kind of the visual layer to help understand those underlying data models that you've so carefully curated.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, very much in the same way, within iServer365, essential to maintaining that central source of truth, the enterprise architecture model, is allowing multiple teams to collaborate around that information, right? So although, really architecture teams are the key authors, the curators, if you like, of that information, they absolutely rely on a range of stakeholders across the business to contribute and to co-create that central enterprise architecture model. So they can contribute data, they can share, review, edit, sign off information and content to ensure an up-to-date real-world representation of the business, which is fundamental for the next part that we'll talk about in a second. And, as you mentioned, collaboration, a huge part of the Lucid story. Can you give a brief overview of how it supports collaboration across different users and teams, and why?
Yeah, absolutely. And so with collaboration being a core value proposition, and one of the reasons, the majority of our customers choose Lucid, it's something that we have focused on and really implemented very well. I guess two things I'll call out. The first is that Lucid allows everybody to have a voice, no matter your experience level, personality type, whatever may differentiate you from other folks. So, for example, if you're in a Zoom call or a meeting with 15 to 20 people, companies may be different, but it seems like this same 2 to 4 people are dominating the conversation and talking with the entire team. If you're new to the team, if you're an introvert, your chance to be an active participant can be suppressed by those louder individuals. But with Lucid, you can run any meeting out of Lucid Spark or Lucidchart, and gives everyone a voice and the capability to be an active rather than passive participant, and essentially create this idea meritocracy where the idea that wins is the best idea out there, not necessarily who has the loudest voice. Another thing I'll mention is that frequently we think of collaboration as synchronous communication. So whether that's all around a table or on a video call, which is true, but there's incredibly valuable collaboration that happens asynchronously, whether that's before or after a meeting, before or after that synchronous communication. Lucid facilitates that type of collaboration through things like changing the status of a document, marketing revisions, comments, mentions, adding tasks that people can mark as complete, adding approvers, and more. So while Lucid's platform not only supports real-time collaboration extends beyond that meeting, and that's something that we happen to facilitate very well.
Fantastic. And so I think that kind of brings us to really the driver behind the partnership and wanting to provide this interface integration between our two products, is that, but through that integration, we're obviously able to bring in the diagrams from Lucidchart. But what Lucid's users have already been able to do is to effectively crowdsource all that knowledge and do all of that collaboration in Lucidchart. And that really means what we're bringing now into the iServer365 repository into our product is we're harnessing that crowdsourced knowledge, if you like, which has already happened, and that's ultimately going to provide a richer, centralized digital blueprint for the current organization, which is what was one of the big drivers for bringing this partnership together. And then, of course, what I talked about, the sort of the first part of iServer365. The second part of the story from there on is that we then we then provide a view of what the desired businesses will be in the future, and then you can generate roadmaps and understand how to reach that future state, if you like, which again has a lot of parallels with what your users are doing in Lucid. But just as importantly, of course, with our platform, it's about providing the data in the form of the insights from that central source of truth that are needed for various decision makers, if you like, to make those transformational changes that are going to progress and drive the actual transformation that these companies are trying to go through and get them to achieve their goals. So it's a really, I hope we get across the message. It's a really valuable partnership, bringing together these two products which effectively have so much collaboration in terms of the ability they provide, the capability they provide, and then being able to bring those into one place to help people make the important decisions which are going to drive transformation forward. I don't know, how would you summarize the joint value that 365 and Lucidchart can now bring to organizations?
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think you summarized it perfectly. I think the only thing I'd add to kind of tie it all together is Lucid is very good at providing a flexible canvas to support visual collaboration. And this partnership will hopefully provide insights into those complex technology environments that will help Orbus users drive towards better decisions that are more resilient.
Fantastic. Well, look, I think it's clear it's the start of a beautiful relationship, Tanner. And I think that sort of brings us up to the close of the initial discussion. But I think it's a good time now, to make you aware, this is effectively an introductory session Tanner is going to be running a webinar with our product management team effectively. That's on the 22nd of September. And you'll be taking a deeper dive into the sort of functionality around the integration between iServer365 and Lucidchart. And there'll be a link put into the chat for people to register. That'll go into the chat on the right-hand side. And if you found any of the points we're covering today of interest, then strongly recommend you join that webinar on the 22nd of September. Okay, so we are going to go to a couple of questions. I can just see the link. The link's gone in there now for the webinar if anyone wants to register for that. I think the first question we got here is, so what's on the roadmap for the integration with Lucidchart? And I guess that's one that I can take. So, we've rolled out the first version of the integration with our customers. And now really it's about working with them to define the next level of the integration. There's plenty of options going forward. And the appetite for Lucidchart diagramming is high amongst our customers. We're talking to sort of the early adopters of the integration and getting their feedback and making sure we get the right validations in place to drive forward the partnership and really enrich that integration that we have. Making sense of the shapes in Lucidchart diagram in iServer365 is definitely a stepping stone for anything else. And it's probably worth focusing on some of the use cases that are, the most common use cases that our customers are looking at. That's around, process modeling, being able to model with BPMN, which is the business process modeling notation, diagram notation, cloud architecture, which we've covered earlier in the conversation, architecture diagramming in general, data modeling and roadmaps, I guess, are probably one of some of the key types of diagramming that our customers, or most common types of diagramming that our customers are looking to do. So yeah, that's really what's on the roadmap initially. Let's see what other questions we have here. I've got one here. What's on the roadmap for Lucidchart's development in the future? Any exciting features that you can share with us? Tanner, that's probably one for you.
Yeah, one for me. So I think in order to understand our to kind of set the stage, so we have a very strong belief at Lucid that in the next 4 to 5 years, every knowledge worker and enterprise will adopt a visual collaboration suite of tools. And so everything that we have in our pipeline is planned and is currently being built in order to solidify Lucid as that best option. We'll do this by continuing to invest in our collaboration engine that supports collaboration, both synchronous and asynchronous, like I talked about before. We'll continue to invest in high caliber and high value integrations in with both net new integrations, but also continue to invest in our current integrations, particularly the one with Orbus. We'll see advanced automation, data capabilities that connect data to visuals. You'll see an innovation repository that will eventually become a system of record for a company's ideas, plans, and designs. And I guess finally, we'll continue to invest in supporting our best-in-class administration, security, and compliance features. So while there's a lot happening, at the end of the day, you'll see Lucid continue to double down on our mission and build support for use cases for the entire spectrum of helping teams build from idea to reality.
Excellent. Good. And then I think we've got one more here, a bit less specific to our companies. What are the most common barriers to collaboration that you see? We could both probably speak to that. Do you want to go first, Hannah?
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as collaboration, one of the difficult things that we see is everybody likes to collaborate differently. And when I say everybody, it differs from enterprise to enterprise. Within teams, it can differentiate between functions and business units. And then even within teams, I like to collaborate different from my, from our VP who likes to collaborate differently, from our associate and our analysts and our product managers. And so one of the difficulties is allowing people to collaborate in the way that works best for them, but also in the way that will lead to the best outcome for the business. And that's one of the things that we've tried to do at Lucid, right? By essentially having an infinite canvas and a whiteboard to start out with, that allows you to create the collaboration experience however you feel is going to be best for that certain problem you're trying to solve. We also have a template library. So maybe you don't want to start from scratch. Maybe you want to start from somewhere. We have a template library with literally thousands of templates from other people who have tried to solve similar problems to the one that you're facing right now. And so being able to pull from that template library and have a starting point for, hey, this is how we're going to collaborate, and this is how we're going to solve that problem. That's one of the biggest barriers in how we're attempting to solve it. But would get curious to hear your thoughts as well, Tim.
I think that, yeah, absolutely right. I think one of the biggest ones we see, the barriers, is people thinking they have to learn, or basically, if you want to promote collaboration, providing it in the mediums that people are used to. And I think, being able to diagram where you work, I think is something I saw on the Lucidchart website. And you talk there about being able to do it on a Mac, PC, Linux, all these different kind of mediums. So that's one way you address that. Making it as easy for people to do it is really important. You don't want to be taking them out of their comfort zone or their daily kind of work, right? That's what you've got to do. And where we fit in with that is separate to the diagram, actually. But when we talk about getting contributors in the organization to provide data into our central source of truth, we do that a lot with the typical tools that they're used to using. So whether it's risk management data we want to bring in, we'll go and allow people who are using OneTrust or something like that to contribute that, or we provide collaborations, and we've done it. So we provide collaborations through things like Teams and SharePoint, things that are often used for that anyway. So people aren't having to kind of learn a whole new tool necessarily. And that's one of the ways we get around that, ensuring we get that collaboration and contribution. I hope that has answered the majority of that question. I think that's bringing us up to the end of the time here. So Tanner, a quick message to everyone else first is obviously reminder about the webinar. The link is in the chat. Do go and sign up for that. There's going to be an extended session on that where they'll be covering more around the integration and more about the topics, obviously, that we've discussed today. And then I guess finally, Tanner, thank you very much for spending some time with us today for this Orbus Live. It's been an absolute pleasure. Look forward to working with you more. And I know that all the folks at Orbus are really excited about this partnership and driving it forward and seeing where we go from here.
Thanks for having me, Tim. Really appreciate it. And we're really excited about this partnership with Orbus and looking to continue to expand on that.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And goodbye, everyone. And we'll see you for the next one. Many thanks.